All right, everyone. Welcome into episode 149 of Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. I'm Nicole, as always, from Chattanooga, Tennessee, United States. And joining me from Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, is Gus Tomazeli. Gus, how are you doing here on this Thursday evening? We have finally made it to October.
Yeah, definitely a lot to talk about in October. I guess we can say it's the busiest month in sports in North America, surrounding all major sports. And definitely, I'm good. Definitely ready to talk sports, but definitely before we talk anything related to sports, we have something not fun to talk about.
Absolutely. So I'm sure as pretty much everyone is aware of, obviously Hurricane Helene um, was a cap where I know in the last episode we were talking about how it was approaching the coast, and we're all thinking about like how is it going to affect like Florida and those areas. But I don't think the thing that people were ready for was what it was going to do inland as a major wind event across Georgia and South Carolina, and then as a major flooding event across western North Carolina and East Tennessee. And because of this, it has turned into the deadliest hurricane since Hurricane Katrina. At last count, I believe it was at least 205 deaths, which is just staggering. Half of those are in western North Carolina. And as you most of you know, I'm from Chattanooga, Tennessee. This is not far from me at all. Because you lived in Knoxville, and this is even closer to where this was. And our two beloved cities got spared during this, and it's been kind of freaky over the past week, just thinking about how close this was.
and 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 for me also hits kind of hard because it affected the northern east of Tennessee, and it was an area that I really explored throughout my time in Tennessee because when I was with my ex-girlfriend at the time, she studied at East Tennessee State University, and I made a lot of drives to Johnson City and the surrounding areas to explore all the great places that northeast Tennessee has to offer. So I visit Asheville, Bristol, Greene County, Washington County, all the great state parks, Rome Mountain State Park, David Crockett State Birthplace State Park, and all those areas were affected, and the images are shocking. I saw an interesting post on Facebook of people asking why there were a lot of victims and there were a lot of why people caught off guard. And one comparison was uh, it's like if a blizzard hit Florida, like you're not prepared for that. Hurricanes was supposed to hit the Gulf Coast, Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, but East Tennessee is not used to something like that. I remember back in 2019 there was a really bad flooding. I remember in East Tennessee, and we all thought that was really bad, but this is very, very bad. And my thoughts and prayers to all the people affected by Hurricane Helene.
Yeah, and this was just a really unfortunate meteorological. I'm not gonna say an accident, but what had happened is, the last time I did this show, I believe it was last Wednesday. I may or may not have mentioned during a podcast it already had been raining some that day, and what had happened is that rain that came through Chattanooga that day went to the east, and it stalled out over Asheville and far east Tennessee, and it just rained there for a solid day, even before the hurricane showed up. And so basically, these places had already gotten multiple inches of rain, and then the hurricane comes and it causes just unimaginable destruction. And I will say this: as horrible as this is, I have been encouraged by all of the people that are helping them. Like I have, obviously, I'm a news reporter, so I have been covering relief efforts all week here in Chattanooga, and people I've seen a mayor of a town get in his private plane and fly off to Asheville. I've seen people bring in truckloads of supplies and fill up a barn so they can give this over to Asheville. I see people willing to risk their personal vehicles to try to get through these mountainous roads that are not there anymore. Um, And there's people out there trying to use this as political fodder since we're only a month away from an election. And I really urge people not to do that. I really urge people to, you know, not root for this to happen because you think all Appalachians are backwoods people. Because I've seen that unfortunately online. Some people claim that like people in Appalachia
It's just
deserved it.
short-minded. It's just short-minded. I mean, you can disagree with the political affiliation of certain people, or you might not be a fan of a way a certain area leans towards politically. But those are hardworking people that, through no fault of their own, lost their homes, lost their cars, lost their loved ones. So you can't see party. You have to see people. Those are fellow Americans that were affected definitely hard by Hurricane Helene. And just going to give a big shout out to my Erica Barbosa in Hortolândia watching us, the Rio Branco, also Sport Club, my great club watching us as well. But again, my thoughts and prayers to all
Mhm.
people affected by Hurricane Helene.
Absolutely. And 99% of people are all in and helping these folks out because it's going to take them a very, very long time to do so. So I'm looking to help out any way I can here. As most of the people that I know also are looking to find ways to help because it's what we do here in East Tennessee. We help out our fellow East Tennesseans, our friends across the mountains, North Carolina, and everywhere else in between. And we're thinking about you guys. We pray for you guys, and this episode will be dedicated to all of you. All right. Well, let's talk about some less serious things. Let's talk about some sports. Um, and we got to start about what we just saw in Milwaukee because the New York Mets pulled off a miraculous ninth inning. They were down 2-0, and Pete Alonso comes through. Gus, talk about what it means to see the Mets win their first playoff series in I think like 9 years.
Yes, the last time they won a playoff series was the NLCS 2015 against the LA Dodgers. They lost the do or die wild card match against the San Francisco Giants. I remember that game vividly, and definitely that series against Milwaukee was a roller coaster. I mean, talk about a series that on game one, the Mets dominated. Great win, 8-4. You know, uh, with great plays by Mark Ventos. But on Wednesday, things didn't look so good. The Mets had the lead, but lost in the end, 5-3. And today, it seemed like everything was going the Brewers' way. They were up by 2 runs up until the bottom of the top of the nine. But then our beloved hero Pete Alonso, who's stuck with the Mets. I'm looking at you, all those players who left the Mets, including a certain pitcher, you know, Jacob DeGrom. I look at you, Pete Alonso, who stayed through the tough times, who stayed through, the bad times. He was the hero that this club needed, and on the top of the nine, stuck a really beautiful hit, and a great home run, and also great play. And again, what a win by the New York Mets, 4-2. The City Field exploded on their watch party. It was beautiful to see that. And the Mets have all the momentum. The way they ended September with have to win up until the last the last match of the doubleheader against the Braves, and now I think they have the momentum going against the Phillies. And as we saw last season, going with the momentum after winning the wild card series can be a really big factor.
Right. And now the Phillies, they're going to have to play the opposite head because you said the last 2 years, the Phillies have beaten the Braves in that role of being the team coming off the wild card round. And we've talked about this at nauseam about how this format screws over the top two seeds. So let's look at all the matchups here, and we think about which one of these could be the biggest, um, upsets. Now, just and the other one, and obviously got addressed here. The Braves lost; they got swept 2-0. Wasn't surprised. I mean, this team is just way too injured, and I was hoping maybe a 2021 run could happen, kind of, but that team was not injured the way this one was, because like all the 21 team was missing was Acuna. Everyone else in that team was healthy. This team was just way too injured. But hey, I'm proud of them for even making the playoffs in the first place, given that, because they could have easily collapsed and missed it, but they were able to hold on and win enough to get there, which shows me
And
just how good. Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was about
No,
to say, it just shows how well built this team is. And if they can just get back to being healthy, they'll be back in the picture again. So it's a lost season, but hey, even in a lost season, they still made the playoffs. So I can't be that mad.
no, and I have to say, at least they got a great win against the New York Mets, even though they lost the first game of the doubleheader. The do or die game at Truist Park, they got the win. So at least the Braves fans saw their team rally through adversity and win the game they needed to go to the playoffs. But from what I see from social media, especially Facebook groups from the Braves, is a sense of pride, is a sense of this team with all the adversities and all the injuries, they accomplished what they could because the San Diego Padres are built to win now. That team is, designed and the World Series window for the Padres is also kind of closing down. So they have the better overall roster with all the players available. They were a better team, and that series against the Dodgers are gonna be for the ages as well. I mean,
Yeah.
those teams hate each other.
And they both have all the pressure in the world. I mean, you got the Dodgers here who paid $600 million for one player in Shohei Ohtani, which so far is paying off because he's having a 50-50 year, still just playing out of his mind. But as we all know with the Los Angeles Dodgers, they historically don't do well in October. Yes, they won in 2020, but that's a Mickey Mouse ring. That's a COVID ring. Nobody cares.
Yeah,
They have not won a real ring yet.
yeah, and there were no full crowds. It was like a kind of like an empty kind of postseason. Now is a two. I mean, I feel like all the pressures in LA. I mean, that's an advantage. Even though the Padres World Series window are kind of closing down, all the pressures in LA.
Yeah, and this is the first time we're ever going to see Otani in the playoffs as well. So how does he respond now? He played really well at the what was it, the World Baseball Classic?
Yeah,
He
the World
played well at
Baseball Classic.
that. But the MLB playoffs, I think, are more important than the World Baseball Classic. So I'm curious how he handles the pressure, especially being on the LA Dodgers, a team that is championship or bust.
Definitely, definitely. All eyes are on Otani, and and on this roster, not only Otani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Clayton Kershaw as well. He has to prove he can be the great pitcher in the postseason as well.
Right. Well, Freddie Freeman has proven he can win a World Series. I mean, he won one with the Braves. So,
No, no,
I'm not worried about Freddie.
no. I'm saying I'm also putting other names that give this roster why they are favored to win not only the NL pennant but the World Series in general.
Right. And really, when you look at the field, LA should win the World Series. They have by far the best roster. Because honestly, when I look at the AL, I don't know. Obviously, you got the Yankees, right? The Yankees are loaded too, but I do think the Dodgers are a bit ahead of the Yankees by ever so much. And I think this series that the Yankees have against the Royals is super dangerous because the Royals are the kind of team that is super feisty. They went to a tough environment in Camden Yards and got and swept the Orioles. Um, Casey's dangerous, I think, for the Yankees.
Yeah, and KC, the last time they made, I believe, the last time they made it to the postseason as well, they won it all. So they're the kind of team that either they don't make it or they go and win it all. So the KC is a really dangerous team. But back just to finish up the NL side, and I think those matchups in the National League are the best ones because they have two rivalries, the NL East and the NL West. Both teams that don't like each other. Of course, one side has more. I say if you have to point out which team is going to win the NL pennant, I people say will come from the West because all the loaded rosters both Dodgers and the Padres have. But don't count the Phillies and the Mets out yet because those two teams have all the energy and the momentum, especially the New York Mets. Because if there's a one fan base who's been let down and down time and time again, I cannot even imagine what Steve Cohen is feeling after so much heat for so many years.
I'll be honest. I think the Mets and Dodgers win their rounds, so I think we're going to get a New York, LA, at least in the NLCS. Could we get one in the ALCS too, or could it get New York, New York in a World Series, the Subway Series?
Yeah, and it will be a rematch of the 2015 NLDS if that happens. And for me, I'm gonna go Mets and Padres. I think the Dodgers are gonna collapse again. Give me Mets and Padres.
Ooh. Man, it's going to be a fun NL side. Now, I did mention kind of how I felt about KC and the Yankees. So, what's your feel on that series?
I mean, despite KC being a sneaky team, give me the Yankees.
Yeah, I mean, this would be all out failure for the Yankees. People would be getting fired if
I mean,
the Yankees lost
I
the
mean,
series.
if the New York Yankees lose this series and Aaron Boone, Brian Cashman, you know, s- keep their jobs, I mean, what's the point? What's the point you spend all that money that if you keep your front office, you keep your management intact, time after time, failure after failure?
Yeah, I mean, it's put up or shut up time for the Yankees. Now, when you look at this, their run here, I just don't think any of these teams should really beat them in a full series. Like Detroit and Cleveland, obviously have had good seasons, especially Detroit. So, I mean, it's been a very long time since Detroit's been relevant, and for them to go and knock out the Houston Astros, and that was impressive and super funny to watch Houston get eliminated at home in the fashion that they did.
People in Bronx are like, I bet there are a lot of people in the Bronx who are relieved. They're like, the Astros are out. Ooh, because if there's a one kryptonite for the Yankees, are the Houston Astros, and definitely the Dodgers, who came out of nowhere, who after the All Star break weren't a contender, but you know, it's going to be an interesting series of two underdogs. I mean, it's so interesting to see the AL have one big dog, the Yankees, and a lot of underdogs. Royals, Guardians, and the Tigers, and all because all the other big brands in the AL failed, like the Orioles, who was already kind of falling apart in the regular season. The Red Sox,
Defending
so
champion Rangers aren't here.
yeah. So I guess that's why uh, for the New York Yankees, also it's going to be a big pressure to make to the World Series because they haven't been since 2009. It's a long time for a rich and powerful franchise like the New York Yankees not to make it to the big final.
Also, too, I felt like we crapped on the AL Central all year, and now at least three of them are here in the postseason picture,
That's
which is
fair.
wild.
I mean, of course, a lot of people say, "Oh, all those teams had, they had advantage to play the Chicago White Sox, so they got a lot of wins that the other teams in the AL didn't." But you know, they didn't chose to play Chicago; they had to, and you face the teams you face, and they got the wins they needed, and it's always and you point out, a the teams, for example, in the AL West, they're all out, all out.
Yeah. Yeah, one team literally out, but yeah, I'll talk about that in just a minute. But um, who do we think's making it to the ALCS here? I think it'll be Cleveland and New York.
Uh, I think it's gonna be New York and Cleveland, like the matchup. It's gonna be a rematch of the 2016 ALDS.
Yeah, and Cleveland won that one. Yeah, because they went to the
Yeah,
World Series that year. So
yeah, they won with a great performance by Francisco Lindor. I'm glad he's now on the New York orange side.
oh yeah, I mean this is going to be a very interesting postseason. I think there's some of the juiciest matchups we've had in a minute in the MLB. That's for sure. Although I still, once again, like my yearly rant, why are we playing playoff games in the middle of the day, specifically on a work day? Like, what are we doing here, people?
Like for example, how great it was on this Thursday night to have a do or die game between the Mets and the Milwaukee Brewers. How great was a night game, playoff night game. Great. Why you put a game on a 1 p.m. Tuesday? Why?
Right. So, like, game two of Detroit Cleveland is 4 p.m. on Monday. Like, why? Like, why? Like, I mean, Philadelphia at least. Oh, 4 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. Okay. Those are weekends. That's
Yeah,
fine.
that's fine.
Um,
But come Monday, I mean 5 p.m. fine, but I mean they did determine the time. Hopefully they don't put games on work hours. Hopefully they don't. But they want to schedule for the TVs to have don't games collide. But when you have 4 games in one day, it's better to have 2 games simultaneously than one game separately, and you start a game at 1 p.m. on a Wednesday.
Yeah, and people have YouTube TV now. They have multi-view. People are watching multiple games at once. Like MLB just needs to get with the times.
Yeah, yeah, I
But I
agree
mean,
with
we're
you.
asking the MLB to get with the times, which is, um, I guess, kind of segues to the next one because we do have a kind of another sad note here. Rest in peace to Pete Rose, the great legendary Charlie Hustle, passed away the other day at the age of 83. Of course, legendary player for the Cincinnati Reds, won 3 World Series. He was also a manager, of course, infamously was banned from baseball after it was discovered he was gambling on games that he was affiliated in, played, and coached. And of course, was never allowed in the Hall of Fame because of it. Even though he begged and pleaded and said, I never bet against my team, I only bet on us to win. Um, please let me in. And they just basically said, nope, we're not even going to consider it until you're dead. And well, now he's dead. Um, should the Baseball Hall of Fame reconsider putting in Pete Rose?
No doubt. I mean, I was infuriated when I saw the Facebook page of the National Base of the Hall of Fame and Museum, the Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum, you know, put a post for Pete Rose. I I wanted to comment something like, so you guys consider him a legend, may all dispose, but you can't acknowledge how great he was to put in the Hall of Fame because of something maybe he wasn't supposed to do, but he didn't, fixed any games. As he pointed out, he bet on his team to win, so he had an incentive to play even better. I mean, it's fucking, it's ridiculous for the Baseball Hall of Fame to not put it in. He's again the all-time hits leader. How crazy is that? The all-time hits leader and the all-time home run hitter are not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. That's insane.
And,
That's insane
and
to
literally
me.
a player too that so many fans love. Like I know people who are of age that watch them play and like he's their favorite player, and they don't care that he gambled. Like they still love him. It's not like he did something unforgettable like a Deshaun Watson. Like he bet on his team to win. That's not unforgettable. And now MLB last year took in $2.8 billion from DraftKings. I mean, they're literally making money off of sports betting.
I know maybe I wasn't maybe I mean I saw on social media some people post that if only P Rose had an interpreter.
Yeah. Meanwhile, as the MLB, they're probably thanking God on their knees that Shohei Ohtani's finally in the playoffs because they'll probably bump up their ratings.
Yeah.
So yeah, but anyway, rest in peace to Pete Rose and baseball, the Hall of
L-
Fame. Do the right thing.
Yeah, at least the Cincinnati Reds put him on their Hall of Fame because he was beloved there.
Absolutely. Um, so the next thing I want to bring up. Um, so Oakland saw its last baseball game last week. Wow, one of my best friends who was my college roommate, he was telling me he went to this game and just how emotional it was because he grew up going to all these games and all the fans were just heartbroken. And I feel heartbroken for him. I can't imagine what that would be like losing your team. And now it's finally here. And the Oakland A's are no longer the Oakland A's. They are now the
West
Sacramento A's, the West Sacramento A's. And what's crazy is they haven't really been finalized their deal in Las Vegas.
I mean, it was impressive to see the fans showing up at the Coliseum, but I bet for your roommate and all those thousands of fans who were there, the surreal feeling when the game was over and they knew that it would be the last time they left the game of the Oakland A's. And even I'll go even deeper. After that game is the end of the city of Oakland in pro sports. A city that was not long time ago had an NBA champion, had an NFL big brand, and now they don't have anything. Their baseball team gone, their football team gone, and even worse is that their NBA team was gone on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, it's almost like emblematic of what happens when the American dream dies, and that's what's happened to Oakland. Like when all your industry falls apart and basically your city becomes undesirable. That's what can happen, and also when you have just bad management. Like, I mean, I don't really blame the Warriors, right? They just found a better piece of property across the bridge, so they went over there. Then you had the Davises, who always move around the Raiders, had done it before to Oakland, and they did it again. And then, of course, you had John Fisher, who is such a coward that he won't face the fans, he won't face the media, and he is the biggest baby back, what, in professional sports.
I feel for the A's fans in the city of Oakland. I would be interesting to see how the people in Sacramento are gonna host. It's gonna be kind of like when Memphis host the Tennessee Oilers back then, because they knew that the team was not gonna stay there, but they played there anyway.
Yeah, it's only 10,000 seats. So it's gonna be hilarious. I feel like it's gonna be sad, but it's gonna be hilarious in terms of what. Um,
Because
that's right.
they're basically playing on a AAA stadium, right?
Yes. So I don't even know what's going to happen to that AAA team that the locals already care about, and now they're going to make them care about an MLB team that is basically homeless in the Oakland A's by their own choosing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
it's sad because the A's are what because it was so funny that the Oakland teams had such a brand. The Raiders are international brand. There are people in Brazil who wear Raiders gears, even though they don't know about the team, but the brand is a strong brand, and the A's was the way the A's still are a big brand in baseball. They have even a movie about it, Moneyball. So definitely, I imagine there's still gonna be Ace fans. They're gonna care about the team, but I imagine all those fans who left the Coliseum last week, they are gonna definitely miss those times.
absolutely. I know my roommate said he's not going to follow the team anymore, and I imagine a lot of them will be following suit.
Yeah. Breaking news in baseball as well. Reds hiring Terry Francona as their new manager. Interesting hire by the Cincinnati Reds. And it's so funny because Terry Francona definitely beloved in Boston, the manager who brought the World Series for the Red Sox after 86 years. But uh, in recent times, he hasn't been so good. I mean, of course, in Cleveland, he had a 2016 run, but he couldn't get it done. Won the AL pennant, but lost in very hard fashion against the Cubs. But I mean, the Reds, they are kind of the winning mentality, and Terry Francona can be that coach.
I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert on who would make a good MLB manager. And I'm saying I know Francona has as you said, a great track record, a stellar track record. The thing is that this feels like a retread hire. I mean, I don't see him returning back to what they were able to pull off in the mid 2000s with
Kind of,
Boston.
kind of like when the White Sox hired Tony La Russa.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of the White Sox, but and also for the Reds too, they're kind of in a talent hole right now. Their talent's not great. I mean, obviously the Lookouts here in Chattanooga are a Reds affiliate, and I can tell you right now, the talent on that team is not good. There's no one that I see on that team that's going to be a major leaguer. I mean, the last great prospect was Ellie De La Cruz. So, I mean, they've got him. And, of course, they got Chase Burns, who obviously we like to mock. And he still hasn't even played in Chattanooga. He's supposed to start the year next year. So I'll show up with my national championship gear then to taunt and mock. But, yeah. So the Reds have a lot of work to do. And maybe this manager can do that. But I just feel like you need someone fresh. I don't know who that would be, but don't think that would be a great hire. So the last thing baseball I want to bring up was the White Sox's owner Jerry Reinsdorf. Yeah, so on the last day of the year, after the White Sox set the record for the most losses in the modern era of baseball, they finished, I believe it was 39 and
31,
120.
yeah, 121 losses.
Man, just unbelievable. They won 5 out of the last 6, which is crazy. Think about it. They just randomly decided to be good at the end of the
You
season.
know why? Because the White Sox are so bad they don't even get losing right because the fans are like they were like we cannot even get the record for the team who have the worst record. They were joking. Not even losing we can get it right.
Right. But they did get the record, 41 and 121. And Jerry Reinsdorf sent out this very long letter that I don't think anyone read. I looked at it. It was like a full screen on their Twitter page, basically saying, this isn't acceptable. We are cleaning house to try to fix it. And at the end of the day, Jerry, there's a reason why your fan base wants you to sell the team. Because they've seen you clean house before and bring in new people that don't know what they're doing or bring in a toxic culture. And here's the thing about Jerry Reinsdorf. If his GM in 1984 with the Chicago Bulls didn't draft this guy named Michael Jordan from North Carolina, Jerry Reinsdorf would have done literally nothing in sports. Ever. Yeah, he got saved by one lucky draft pick in the 1980s.
And one good GM, to be fair. Jerry Krause was a good GM. Not only, of course, Michael Jordan deserves all the prayers. He's a GOAT. But he had a good GM in the 90s who got a lot of pieces from MJ.
Absolutely. And obviously has not been able to replicate that with Chicago. Now, I know they won a World Series in 2005, but they literally have done nothing since. Literally nothing since. And, our dear friend Jason's a big White Sox fan, and he I think only watched one game this year because he doesn't want to watch again until Jerry sells the team. They're kind of in an Oakland A's situation. It almost feels like they might be the next ones to move. That like they're going to use the poor performance as an excuse to be like, all right, let's take the White Sox to Nashville or something. That seems like
I kind of compare the White Sox to the Miami Marlins. I mean, both, when they won the World Series was an improbable run. Have kind of in different fan bases, mediocre campaign time after time. But and it's funny that the Marlins has new ownership and nothing's changed. So I don't want to be pessimistic, but I don't know if even a new ownership can change things down in the north side.
Yeah, I feel bad for VFL Gerd Crochet because he's like the only good player on that team.
Oh,
So
I feel for him too. I even saw a picture I took with him 4 years, 5 years ago, and I was like, "Whoa, he's a major leaguer, and hopefully he can find a better team."
he was like basically almost like the Hendon Hooker for baseball. Like he was the first great baseball player under Tony V. And obviously a lot have followed after him. But anyway, sell the team, Jerry, and sell the team, John Fisher. We need some better owners in the MLB. Okay, so switching over to some NFL. Um, the Thursday Night Football is ongoing with the Tampa Bay Bucks and the Atlanta Falcons right now. It is 27-20. The Falcons are in field in the red zone, so they're trying to tie the game. I believe we just finished the third quarter, if I'm not mistaken. At
Yeah,
last
yeah,
play,
yeah.
Lance.
Third quarter, they literally the last play was the last play of the third quarter.
Yeah, because I just saw that Bijan Robinson had a huge run down the field. Obviously, a fantastic game, 27-20. I usually don't get a game like this on a Thursday night. Um, so shout out to these two teams for showing up and playing well. Can the Falcons find a way to not lose another heartbreaker in prime time? Because the Falcons, they
But
lost a heartbreaker a week or two ago to
who
the Chiefs, and yeah,
who's their quarterback?
Kirk Cousins. But I mean, Kirk Cousins. I mean, he led a game-winning drive at Philly 2 weeks ago, and of
Yeah,
course
on
they
the
came
Monday night.
back and they came back and beat the Saints last week with Young Wei Koo.
Yeah, I guess maybe Kirk Cousins' jinx for a primetime game is over uh, after that great win over the Phillies. But as of right now, Tampa Bay is really good on the running game. Really good. Baker Mayfield, great performance. I mean, carrying this team, but there's still a lot of football to be played.
Yeah. And hey, since they're playing at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, shout Mercedes-Benz Stadium. By the way, amazing venue for any event. I was there not too long
Oh
ago.
yeah.
Uh, um, they can eat Chick-fil-A today since it's not a Sunday football game.
Oh, that's true. One of those
Yeah.
rare times that the Falcons fans can eat Chick-fil-A on their stadium.
Yep. The next one I went was on a Sunday, so for the event I went to, and that was definitely not that was not open that night.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll be curious to see how this game finishes. Bijan Robinson only has 10 carries. Okay, that's kind of weird to me. I feel like Bijan Robinson is their most dynamic playmaker, and he should be getting the ball more than 10 times in the game. Maybe they're just trying to limit his usage. But anyway, that seems unwise to me. Well, we'll keep an eye on how this game plays out. How do you think this one's going to end?
I think Tampa. I think it's gonna be down to the wire, but I think Tampa Bay gonna hold the lead.
I think, of course, we have Whitfield now that's injured on the side. I think, honestly, I'm going to go against the grain here. I think Atlanta finds a way, but we'll see. All right, we'll keep an eye out on that throughout the rest of the podcast. But back to kind of last week, probably the biggest result, in my opinion, was the Vikings going to 4-0. They were up 28-0 in Green Bay. Now, Green Bay kind of came back, kind of made it an interesting game, but the Vikings ended up winning 31-22. To me, the Vikings look like a legitimate championship contender, but I'm kind of scared because it's the Minnesota Vikings. And we know historically they're kind of basically the NFC Buffalo Bills and finding ways to blow championships out. But this team just looks like they're extremely well coached, they're well balanced, and Sam Darnold looks like he could be the guy to pilot the ship.
Yeah, and of course you can say, "Oh, it's still only 4 weeks," but they beat the current NFC champion. They beat the current NFC South champions. So, and they beat one of their biggest rivals. So, three impressive wins. Because against the Giants, you say, "Oh, it's the Giants. They're in a rebuild." So that it came out of nowhere because they were out of JJ McCarthy, who everybody kind of was, maybe it was like, hey, maybe he can take over the quarterback spot. He got injured, and then and before that they lost Kirk Cousins, and then Sam Darnold, a quarterback who's been not good in New York and Carolina, is really playing solid in Minnesota.
Yeah, touchdown Falcons, Darnell Mooney. So they're about to have a tied ball game in Atlanta.
Oh, touchdown, Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, and that place is packed too. People try to say Atlanta doesn't care about the Falcons, but when the Falcons are entertaining, they'll show up.
Especially when this game has the division on the line, because if the Falcons wins, they take over the lead in the NFC South. And the NFC South, I think, is going to be the most even division. I think it's going to be up until the last week of the regular season to see who is the division champs.
Oh yeah, because I think these two are playing in the Saints are all really good. And hey, the Carolina Panthers look better with Andy Dalton. Now I don't think the Panthers are going to be in the title race, but they could ruin someone's season. Since they look like they're actually like a functioning football team now, which is better than what they were looking before.
Yeah, and I know they beat the Raiders, a team who's probably also not gonna, are not gonna uh, it be a title contender, but they gave some trouble to Cincinnati, you know, and they got to face the Bears. So this team can improve and give some trouble to their NFC foes.
Oh, absolutely. Um, yeah, but back on the Vikings though, it just really surprises me how much better Darnold looks. Like it really does come down to coaching. Like I think we're starting to see how important coaching is again in the NFL. Like I'm not saying it never became unimportant, but I think it's really becoming important again in the NFL. Your biggest asset is your coach.
I think the duo. If you have the in the NFL to at least be a contender, you need to have either a great coach and a reliable quarterback, or a great quarterback and a reliable coach. If you have a mediocre coach or a mediocre quarterback, you can't win.
Yeah, yeah, but I know that one firsthand, to say the least.
Yeah.
All right. Some of the other interesting um, headlines to me here: the Ravens all over the Bills, and this is once again alarm bells to me for Buffalo in terms of can they really compete? Can they really win a championship? I mean, they're out here getting gashed. I mean, Derrick Henry with an 87-yard touchdown run, which, by the way, Derrick Henry looked like his old self Sunday night. Shout out to him, rooting for him.
Yeah, and a lot of people are questioning, is he and Lamar Jackson going to make a good duo? They were answered on Sunday.
Yeah, yeah, that you're 100% right about that because I kind of was critical. Like it didn't seem like they were meshing well, at least at first, but now they are definitely meshing well. And the Ravens are overcoming that 0-2 start, and they're going to be very much. Um, I think they'll come back on the AFC North. I mean, the Steelers lost to the Colts the other day. They're only a game behind them. I mean, they're still ahead of the Bengals and the Browns. So I think the Ravens are going to be just fine in the AFC North.
Yeah, I think they are still behind uh, Pittsburgh right now, but I think they're going to take over and win the division. And speaking of the
Yeah.
AFC North, what's happening to the Cincinnati Bengals? Even though they won against the Panthers, they're very bad for what fans are expecting.
Well, that defense is alarming. Like, I don't know what happened to their defense. Because Burrow, he's getting, because Burrow looks fine, I think. Like, Burrow will be fine. But they can't defend anyone. I mean, in the last 3 weeks, they go up 26 at Kansas City. I mean, it's not terrible, but then get absolutely cooked by the Commanders. And then the Panthers looked very serviceable. Like, they looked very competent. Like, this defense is not good for Cincy.
Yeah, and you talk about coaching. Is Zach Taylor the right coach for this team?
Well, gotta remember too, they lost their OC and Brian Callahan. He's now the head coach in Tennessee, and we have a discussion on that. We think he's doing well in Tennessee, but he was pretty good as the OC for the Bengals, and I do think there was at least a little bit of a drop off, especially initially, um, between Callahan and the Bengals' new OC. So maybe they'll get that corrected, but you can tell they are missing some of the coaching changes that occurred.
Yeah, I think the this NFC North is going to be a really tight race.
Oh, I do think so, but I still think the Ravens will be the team that will ultimately get away. They just seem like by far the best team to me. I don't know. The Steelers are on top. That offense is just not going to be good enough. So, of course, you have to wonder though when when Russell Wilson is ready, will Mike Tomlin make the switch? Because Justin Fields has looked good at times, but then he came out and looked pretty bad against a Colts team that has not looked good so far. So that's going to
Yeah.
be interesting.
Oh yeah.
Also, on the Colts, real quick, Anthony Richardson getting hurt again because he doesn't slide. He takes too many hits, and some of the Colts fans I know they're starting to turn on Anthony Richardson. They think that he's not developing as a passer. He doesn't know how to take care of himself, and they're also mad at the coaching for putting him in situations where he's running the ball into like he got hurt. They pull him out of the game. He goes back in, and then they call a read option and get him even more hurt. Like, what are we doing here, Indy? Like, why are you getting your quarterback hurt?
Yeah, it's a very questionable decision, and it's a kind of like lack of leadership.
Yeah. So definitely the Colts are not as good as I thought they would be. Um, Now, also
Yeah,
in the
I
AFC
would,
South. But
and Anthony Richardson coming back from the injury, it's kind of risky.
right. Speaking of AFC South injuries, Will Levis also got himself hurt. He hurt his shoulder by diving like a buffoon for like 3 yards short of the first down. And of course, Will Levis had before that had thrown an interception right to a defensive lineman, and he got hurt and thankfully, mercifully, did not return. Mason Rudolph came out and, to be honest, he really didn't do much. I mean, he didn't even get to 100 yards passing. But you know what Mason Rudolph did do that Will Levis can't? He didn't turn over the football. And guess what happened? The Titans won by 19 against a Dolphins team that it has just that team is ready for the season to be over. They have thrown in the towel because their quarterback is out for at least a few weeks, if not forever. I mean, Tua's got to decide whether or not he wants to even continue playing with his concussion history. But I don't think this means the Titans are any good. I just think that we played a Dolphins team that's basically handicapped and just on the verge of giving up.
Yeah, it's just sad. I mean, the Miami Dolphins had so much promise this season. Mike McDaniel is a really great coach, but when your quarterback had an injury like that, and you have a backup quarterback with Tyler Huntley that is not reliable, there's nothing you can do. I mean, I agree with you. The Dolphins season are over.
Yeah, it sucks to say the least, and we'll have to see if Tua is over too. Because I saw a mock draft that said Miami at number 2 would pick Jalen Milroe from Alabama, which would be interesting picking another Alabama quarterback if you're the Miami Dolphins.
And
But
at least the Titans got their first win of the season, so that means something.
yeah, we're not going 0-17. This week is their bye week, so we can't lose this week. Now, Brian Kellen has said that he would like to go back to Will Levis. Now, Mason Rudolph is not going to lead you anywhere. Clearly, if you make the switch, that means you're giving up on Will Levis, and you're basically just tanking the season. I still think I've seen enough from Will Levis to know that he's not the guy. I've seen enough. He keeps on making dumb plays every single week, and you're never going to win doing dumb crap every single week. Mason Rudolph came in. Yeah, he didn't light the world on fire. He didn't do anything spectacular, but he didn't make mistakes. And the Titans won. If Will Levis literally just doesn't make mistakes, we're 3-1 right now. But no, because Will Levis has been a butthead all year, we're 1-3. We should be in the contention for a playoff spot. I mean, there are some good pieces on this Titans team. Now, the defense outside of Green Bay has played really well. I think there's some talent at receiver that's not being utilized because of the quarterback situation. Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard looked really good on Monday and basically became the entire offense. And honestly, some of the play calling, I actually really like the touchdown that Tajay Spears scored out of the Wildcat. That was some nifty play design by Callahan. Like I when it comes to Callahan, I see the potential. He just needs the guy to run the offense. And I don't think he has the guy to run the offense. So that's kind of where I'm at with the Titans. I just think at this point you punt on Levis. But if Callahan doesn't feel like I just don't see any way that like Levis fixes himself.
Yeah, I mean, I think this season is going to be for Will Levis to show if he can be the coach, the quarterback or not. But every week that passes, it seems like he's not the guy. And Tennessee's either going to have to go to the market or draft a new quarterback.
Because I don't even know who would be in the market. And this quarterback class to me is not great, right? Because you have Jalen Milroe, who's also now might be the number one quarterback prospect. Of course, you got Shedeur Sanders, Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers. I mean, I think there's better quarterbacks the year after, right? Particularly Nico Imialava, right? But I don't know if the Titans are going to be able to afford to wait that long for a quarterback. Yeah. So they're going to probably have to figure out a new one by next year. So it's going to be interesting what happens. Now, a team that knows who their quarterback is the Washington Commanders with Jaden Daniels. Because he is just unreal. Like through 4 games, he has completed 82% of his passes. That's unbelievable. And it's not like he's just throwing screens. Like he's throwing downfield. He's throwing tough passes. And he looks amazing. I mean, once again, how did Brian Kelly go 9-3 with him last year? How do you go 9-3 with this guy? But Daniels, yeah.
I mean, LSU fans should question Brian Kelly to waste his talent, to waste Jaden Daniels' talent.
Yeah, and then also too, their defense is playing really well too. I mean, they won 42-14. The Commanders, they're on top of the NFC East right now. Can they win this division? Like, do we think they could? I mean, they got 2 games with the Cowboys.
Because the NFC East is wide open. I mean, the Cowboys and the Eagles are not solid teams right now.
Yeah, it really is. Like, this is like, I feel like there's always 1 or 2 really surprise teams every year. The Washington Commanders feel like they might be that team. And, yeah, it's just super exciting. Shout out to Washington. I know those fans have been suffering for a very long time. They finally get rid of Dan Snyder, and they're getting rewarded for it. So, shout out to Washington fans. Great start to their season. And also equally disappointing for the Cardinals. They looked really good early on, but they're starting to fade a lot, especially on the defensive end. Now, some other quick reactions. The Jets, I don't know. The Broncos-Jets game was basically unwatchable. It was horrifically bad offense from both teams. Now, I do have to ask, the Broncos now have won 2 straight road games. Is the Broncos defense this good? Because to me, the Broncos defense is propping up a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix that can barely throw the football.
Yeah, I mean, Bo Nix he had a lot of college experience, and it's showing how Sean Payton is really turning this franchise around.
Yeah, and also really disappointing for the Jets too to lose that game at home. Um, Also, the Chiefs just continuing to find ways to win. This Chiefs team, the more I watch them, the more I'm starting to think they may not repeat because they remind me a little bit of the Eagles last year because they're barely escaping each week. They haven't shown any flashes of dominance, and I just wonder when the shoe is going to drop on them.
And next, and you know, and a lot of people are questioning if uh, Kelsey is focusing on football and not distracted by other things outside of football.
Look, I mean, most football players have had wives or girlfriends or whatever. I mean, I would think that Taylor Swift is not that much of a distraction. I mean, look, obviously I know what she is, right? But Tom Brady had Giselle Buchanan or Michelle, whatever the hell her name is.
Binchin,
Uh,
usually Binchin.
yeah, um, and he was able to still win multiple championships. I mean, granted, I guess he blew it, but it is what it is. Hopefully, Travis Kelsey does not follow that same fate. But anyway, I guess let's get into some picture this week. Obviously, Bucks Falcons are ongoing. Are Bucks are up
Up.
now 30-27. But in any case, so Sunday we have a 9:30 a.m. special in London between the Jets and the Vikings.
Give me my New York Jets.
I'm gonna go. I'm going to the Vikings to go 5-0. All right, back in the States for the 1 o'clocks. We have the Carolina Panthers at the Chicago Bears, aka the Bryce Young Trade Bowl.
Give me Chicago.
I'll agree. Give me Chicago. All right, the AFC North, Ravens at Bengals.
Give me the Bengals.
I'm gonna go Ravens. All right, in a game at 1 p.m. that no one should watch, the Miami Dolphins at the New England Patriots.
Oh boy, I mean, can we consider a tank bowl, or it's too early to call that?
This might be the first Tank Bowl of the year. I'm sure Urinating Tree will make his call at some point, but this has to be a Tank Bowl. But give me the Patriots. All right, next
Yeah.
game up.
I forgot. For me, give me the Patriots as well.
All right, at 1 p.m. we have the Cleveland Browns at the Washington Commanders.
Give me Washington.
Yep, Washington as well. Talk about the Browns are just getting worse and worse. I think they need to switch quarterbacks from Deshaun Watson to Jameis Winston. I don't care that you're paying $230 million. It's not working. It's just not working. The Indianapolis Colts and the Jacksonville Jaguars.
How crazy is the Jaguars is 0-4?
Yeah, just Trevor Lawrence is not good. I've had this feeling now for a while, and I'm ready to say it. He is just not good. And granted, there's more than just him that's wrong with this team. But Lawrence, great quarterbacks elevate their teams, and Trevor Lawrence just doesn't.
Give me Colts.
I am actually going to go Jaguars, though. The Colts have a lot of problems as well. So I'll go Jags get their first win of the year. All right, this will be a pretty good one. I wish this was actually a primetime game. We got the Bills at the Texans.
CJ Stroud versus
Josh Allen, and it's a 1 p.m. kick. What? Why? That should be a primetime game.
I mean, to be fair, the primetime games on this week 5 are good. Have two big brands, and then on Sunday night and on Monday night you have two contenders and definitely a lot of Taylor Swift on airtime. But back to the game that we're picking, I'm gonna go with Texans.
I'm going with the Bills. I think they'll bounce back. The Texans look like they got some problems to me. Now, Texans still look like by far the best team in the division, but I think they got some serious problems that are going to prevent them from going any further in the playoffs. All right, 4 p.m. A game that's actually, I think, kind of interesting here: the Raiders and the Broncos.
Yeah, both are 2-2, and the division is up for grabs. Give me the Broncos.
I won't say the division's up for grabs, but the Chiefs are going to run away with it. But I think the wild card could come into play here. But I'll take Broncos. I think they got their defense will find a way to get it done. All right, 4 p.m. We have the Arizona Cardinals 1-3 versus the medical mash unit known as the San Francisco 49ers.
I guess Kyle Shanahan really cannot beat Sean McVay, but since Sean McVay's only coached the Rams, give me the 49ers.
Yep, I agree. Give me the Niners. All right, 4:25. I guess the afternoon main game. Here we got the Green Bay Packers and the Los Angeles Rams. What an oh my god! Did you see that drop? I don't know if you have the game on.
I have for me. It's 3rd and 6. I don't know if I'm ahead or behind you.
Yeah, so I just saw the 3rd down play.
Oh, I just saw that. Oh my god, he was wide open. How did you drop that ball? He was wide open.
That was Darnell Mooney. You know, he just got the touchdown earlier this quarter. Like he had the man beat. That was a perfect throw by Kirk. How in the world do you drop that? You're an NFL wide receiver.
I mean,
horrific.
How can he with no? How?
Tell me when you see it.
It's gonna be kick, and it is blocked. Blocked. Wow, Falcons.
Oh my god. Wow. Is there anything more Atlanta Falcons than that?
A drop in a wide open pass and a field goal blocked? No. That's Atlanta Falcons brand.
Yeah, that is so Falcons. There's nothing more Falcons than that 2-play sequence. Dropping what could have been a touchdown and then getting the game-tying field goal blocked. There's nothing more Atlanta than that. Oh, man. Wow. Whew. All right, where were we? We were at what? Green Bay at Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah. Give me the Rams.
I'm going to go Packers. The Rams have some injuries. Of course, they're still down Puka, Nakua, and Cooper Kupp. Stafford's kind of struggling without them. And plus, the Packers have Jordan Love back. Granted, they didn't look great last week, but I think they will look good here. But I want to say this. The Packers are 2-0 with Malik Willis and 0-2 with Jordan Love. So make of that what you will. All right, we got the Giants at the Seahawks.
Give me the Seahawks.
Yep, I agree. Give me the Seahawks as well. All right, Sunday night, we got a big brand matchup here. The Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Two very large fan bases. Who gets this one done?
Steelers. I mean, the Cowboys are just disaster.
I'm actually going to go Cowboys here. I'm usually a big Dallas Cowboys here. I'm actually this Pittsburgh offense is really showing its cracks right now, and I just have a feeling that the Cowboys find a way to pull off a big regular season win here and there. I just feel like this could be one of those. Give me the Cowboys. Of course, Monday night we have the Saints at the Chiefs.
Give me the Saints.
I'm going to go Chiefs. I think the shoe will drop on them, but not yet. So that is all the Week 5 games here as we're fully into NFL season. Now let's switch over to some college football, and oh my god, what a classic we had Saturday night in Tuscaloosa between Alabama and Georgia. Now, obviously, I hate these teams with a passion, but that game was amazing, especially the way that Georgia came back and the way Bama responded. I mean, it was a classic 12-round heavyweight knockout fight, and of course, Bama got the last punch to get it. And man, the implications for both of these teams here. First of all, for Kirby Smart in Georgia, to the narrative heading to this game was okay. Kirby Smart's been owned by Alabama, but hey, maybe it was just Nick Saban. But now Kellen DeBoer shows up and then beats Kirby Smart in Georgia. So now, when it comes to Kirby Smart, it's like okay, he just can't beat Bama. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I guess Bama is really Kirby Smart's kryptonite.
Yep. I mean, he has more national titles than wins over Alabama.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's just the weirdest thing. Now, as long as Georgia doesn't lose to other teams, then I think if you're a Georgia fan, you just kind of live with that. But man, that's gotta hurt to know there's one team that has your number. It's like Peyton Manning with Florida. They just, for some, he just can't beat Alabama. But I think for Alabama, now I actually take him seriously as a national title contender because I'll be honest, up until now, I really didn't. I didn't really believe in Jalen Milroe's ability to win at this high of a level. I didn't really believe in, I think with this new system of all the transfers they had, I really questioned Alabama. But that, especially what they looked like in the first half, that's a team that looks like they could be the best team in the country. Like especially when Milroe is on fire like that and he's connecting with his receivers. Man, I mean, DeBoer was cooking it because we saw what he could do to Washington last year. But man, he really was cooking with Alabama.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I think definitely if the Crimson Tide fans want like a welcome kind of like a welcome card or some or some representation of how Kellen DeBoer can coach, that was the game. Even though he almost blew it, Alabama almost blew it, he got the win.
Yeah, they've got to learn how to actually run out the clock. They were snapping the ball with like 25 seconds left in the fourth quarter for no reason. And then defensively, they just went way too soft and let Carson Beck for all over them. Now, in the first half, Carson Beck looked like a deer in headlights. But hey, credit to him, they were able to storm back and make that a ball game. But wow, that was just a great game. And there's a chance we could see this matchup again. Now, depending on what else happens and perhaps what other teams do around them, I think of one certain team that could have something to say about whether or not these two teams see each other again. Maybe a team that plays both of them. Maybe a team that really hates both of them. But in any case, yeah, I mean, it was just a great game, lived up to the billing. And I feel like a lot of college football games of this magnitude don't live up to the billing, and this one did. So, shout out to those two teams. It was a great game.
Definitely a classic and shows how the Southeastern Conference is really the college football conference.
Oh, absolutely. And it shows how deep the conference is because then the upset of the day on Saturday was Kentucky going to Oxford, knocking off Ole Miss, which, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I thought this one was hilarious. What a result. I mean, everyone's saying that Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss had figured it out. They were a top 5 team. And then Kentucky shows up and beats them. I think this one is a damning loss for Lane Kiffin because so you're telling me that he went to the portal, got all these guys, and then Kentucky got pushed around by a team half as talented as him. But that's what happened. Kentucky is half as talented as Ole Miss, and they went in there and just out physicaled them. And we know Kentucky didn't have much of an offense, but it didn't matter because Ole Miss they fainted at the sign of pressure.
And it was Ole Miss first SEC game, and they lost to a mediocre Kentucky, and they still gonna face big dogs of the likes of Oklahoma, Georgia. So if they go with 9-3, I don't see them going to the playoffs.
Tell me you just saw that, Gus, in the game.
Oh, wow. What a clutch play.
Oh, man. What a way to knock that football out. Oh, wow. So we're going to have a chance here for a game-timer, game-winning drive. What a game. This is turning into an absolutely crazy finish in Atlanta. This might be the most entertaining game I've seen all year. One of the most
Wow.
entertaining games I've seen all year.
What a fumble.
Yeah, and Bucky Irvin, the rookie, cannot believe it at all for Tampa Bay. Yeah, but back in Ole Miss, though, Jackson Dart should not be in the same universe as Heisman. I don't want to hear his name brought up again for the Heisman. He looked terrible in this game. And nor do I want to hear Ole Miss's name brought up for the national championship. This team against a team that can actually bully them up front is going to fold like a house of cards. Ole Miss is not built to win a national title. They're a flash in the pan program. And that's what Ole Miss at their best is. So, sorry, Rebels. But this loss proves to me it's done. For you. Whatever national title hopes you had. Because beating Wake Forest and Georgia Southern and Furman doesn't impress anyone. So,
yeah.
Also, in another team that's really reeling after this week, Auburn once again blowing a home lead late because Peyton Thorne threw another pick six at the worst possible time. They're now 2-3. I mean, man, Auburn. It feels like a season that's about to go off the rails.
And the questioning for Huge Freeze keeps higher and higher. Is he on the hot seat or warmer seat?
Warmer seat. I don't think he'll be fired this year, but he needs a quarterback this offseason. I don't know why he didn't attempt to get a better quarterback this offseason. I think it is just reckless on his part. But he should have gotten a new QB. The fact that this is his option sucks. And Auburn is not making a bowl game. And also, a pretty big win here for Oklahoma.
First Oklahoma win. First Oklahoma win in the SEC.
Yeah, and doing it with your freshman quarterback on the road who didn't really play that well. A good win for Oklahoma. And also shout back up to Kentucky as well. That's a huge win for Mark Stoops. Because I think he had been increasingly been criticized. I think maybe some Wildcat fans were starting to get tired of him. But hey, going and beating a top 5 team on the road, that's huge for Kentucky, and that will buy him some more time in Lexington. As it should. I mean, I gotta remember, Kentucky has never really won anything of note. They haven't won the SEC since 1960. So I think Kentucky fans need to remember what Kentucky football is before they start going around demanding a coaching change.
Yeah, Mark Stoops definitely had some not good moments, but this win definitely will keep him on the job this season.
Yeah, now another team that's just falling apart is Florida State. My God. 42-16 loss to SMU, and DJ Ujalele got benched and got hurt as well. Broke his finger. He's not even going to play against his old team in Clemson. Just an absolute disaster for the Florida State Seminoles. They're not winning more than 1 or 2 more games. I mean, I don't know how you do this bad of a job for replacing a roster. But Mike Norvell somehow has done it. And he might get fired.
Saw that?
Yeah.
I guess it's over the game.
Yeah, they have no more timeouts. They're going to have to. Yeah, it's over.
Yeah, I guess Kirk Cousins. Oh boy. Again in the prime.
Kirk Cousins
is bad.
That was just a bad throw too. But it was 4th and 15, so they just were trying to make a play. Now the Falcons still have 3 timeouts, so let's see if they can get a first down. Are the Buccaneers? So, all right. But yeah, Florida State is just awful. And hey, shout out SMU. That's a huge one. That's their first ACC win. As SMU, don't look out. They're 4-1 now. They're kind of getting things together in Dallas.
You know who's really each week that passed by and the Florida State disaster continues kind of laughed at or so kind of I told you so. The college football playoff committee be like, we told you guys they did not deserve to be in the playoffs. They were not good enough. We had a monumental Alabama Michigan game, and it's proving that Florida State, without their quarterback from last year, is not a good team.
Yeah, they're 1-5 since that decision. So that decision broke the Florida State program, which is just crazy, and broke the ACC as a whole, I would say. All right.
Yeah.
The last game I want. Oh, go ahead.
No, if why not the ACC broken? That's why coming up this season, they have to at least have two teams in the playoffs to kind of come back to be a relevant conference. Because of course they're gonna have their automatic conference champion bid, but if you only put one team in a 12-team playoff, it kind of shows how mediocre of a conference you have.
Yeah, I think if Miami and Clemson run the table and face each other at 12-0 versus 11-1, that will happen. But Clemson is the only team to me that can make it as an at-large. Louisville, I think, threw their chance away losing at Notre Dame this week. They're going to have to probably win the conference. SMU probably is going to have to win the conference. If they want to make it, Pittsburgh's still undefeated too. But they'll probably have to win the conference. So, and Duke's undefeated too. Let's not forget the Duke Blue Devils. They're undefeated, but I don't see Duke winning the conference and or making the playoffs. But I mean, there's some options out there for the ACC.
Yeah, as you point out, their path either has to come through Miami or Clemson running the table and face each other in the conference championship, and then both get in. But it's going to be hard for that to happen.
Right. They don't play each other in the regular season. So that is possible for them to be 12-0 and 11-1 playing each other in the Charlotte. Now, probably one of the more surprising results of the week to me, Colorado 48, UCF 21. I did not see this one coming. I said last week I thought UCF was going to blow out Colorado. Turned out it was the opposite. Colorado actually is starting to look like a team, which I did not think we were going to see.
And because of these new rules in the college football playoff, they have a chance to go in. They are second in the Big 12 standings.
And the Big 12 is such a mess. Like right now, I do a weekly. They have a weekly. Or I make a weekly college football playoff bracket, and right now my Big 12 team is BYU, so it's very wide open, extremely wide open. BYU, Kansas State, Iowa State, Kansas State, and Colorado. Very much all in contention. And West Virginia, don't forget about them. I know they have 2 losses out of conference, but they're undefeated in conference play. So, but the Big 12 to me is only getting one team in.
Yeah, I also think they're going to have also one team in.
Yeah. And definitely that's when we start watching, because you look at the Big 12 and look at the G5. Remember, we only get one G5 team. Right now, to me, I think that's UNLV is the best team. Even though with their situation off the field, they still came back this week and won 59-14 over Fresno State. However, I think Boise State is probably the most talented G5 team with Ashton Genty at running back. And I think ultimately they're going to be the team that gets in. Also, don't forget James Madison, too, who just ripped 70 at North Carolina the week before last. I think one of those 3 teams are going to be your G5 team. And the Falcons are going to get the ball back with 1:12 remaining at their own 20. So let's see if Kirk Cousins, with no timeouts, can engineer a game-winning drive. So I think, obviously those are some of the main takeaways. As really the playoff picture will start really coming into focus over the next week or so. Also, Miami, Virginia Tech, what a weird finish that was. Did Virginia Tech catch that Hail Mary? To me, I don't think he did. I think Miami got that win fair and square, but man, they've had to struggle against a really bad Virginia Tech team to do it. As now the final drive is underway for Kirk Cousins. He threw the Kyle Pitts out 5 yards. Now it's 1:08 to go, second down, and 5. Was Younghoe Koo getting ready on the sideline for a potential game tying try. Kirk Cousins back to throw in the pocket. Looking, throws it downfield and caught by Darnell Mooney. Didn't drop that one. 59 seconds to go. The clock will not stop. They're up to the Tampa Bay 42-yard line. I just went straight into play-by-play mode. All right.
You're doing a great job.
All right, 45 seconds. Back to throw. Kirk Cousins looking, throws it downfield, and once again, that's going to be to Ray McLeod, and he fumbles it. It was clearly a catch, and the clock isn't going to stop because he fumbled it in bounds. So we're now down to 30 seconds. Ray McLeod got a first down, but he fumbled it. They fumbled it out of bounds. So the Falcons retain possession. That's going to be a second down at the – well, no, they're going to say it's a 2nd and 1. So they did not give him forward progress. So they brought the ball back to where it went out of bounds. So now it's going to be a 3rd and 1 after Kirk Cousins.
Because he stepped out of bounds before the ball was dropped.
Yeah, that's a very unfortunate break there for the Falcons. And man, Ray McLeod dropping the ball in that scenario, like, come on, man, you can't let that one happen. All right, 3rd and 1. Kirk Cousins going to be out of the shotgun. It's going to be 21 seconds left. A lot of time went off. They really can't afford to be tackled in bounds. They're going to throw it out. That's going to be to Drake London for a first down. That's up to, I believe, the 43-yard line. So they're in because Younghoe Koo, I believe, has made a 59, if I'm not mistaken, is one of his career longs. He has a huge, he actually might have made it in the 60s this year, if I'm not mistaken. He's got a huge leg, so get it maybe 10, 15 more yards, and you're comfortably in his range to send this thing to overtime. 17 seconds left here. 1st and 10 ball at the Bucks 43. Cousins back to throw, looking. He's going to throw it downfield, and it's going to be dropped by Ray McLeod. Not having a great series. Great defense there by Tampa. 2nd and 10. 12 seconds remaining. You probably have time for one more play if you're Tampa. Younghoe Koo's got the helmet on. He is ready to run on to kick it if necessary here. They really could use another 5-10 yards, and we have a Bucks down. That's Watts, number 58. So we'll pick that back up when the game starts. But anyway, something about Miami. I wasn't impressed with them. And they did look vulnerable, but the good thing for Miami is they play in the ACC.
Yeah, they almost blew it. They came down to the wire.
Yeah. So they've survived, and that's main. Also, I think the most disappointing team in the college this year is Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State with Ollie Gordon at running back, and they had a lot of returning experienced offensive linemen just completely have tanked this season. They are horrible. And they should be 2-3 right now if they didn't get a break against Arkansas. So horrible team. And Oklahoma State. Penn State, they got a big 121-7 over Illinois. But I will say, once again, wasn't that impressed with them. And James Franklin was making some really questionable decisions. Very questionable decisions as head coach. Like some 4th down calls I didn't like. Could have won by a lot more if he was coaching smart. That's going to cost them when they play like an Ohio State. All right, so we're going up to the line here. So 2nd and 10, 12 seconds left. All right, back to throw. Kirk Cousins. He's looking, and that's going to be caught up to the 29, but these tackled in bounds are going to have to spike it. 3, 2, 1. They got it. The home clock operator helping out the home team. Man, if that was the road, the clock probably goes out. They threw the ball inside to Drake London over the middle. He got down, They spiked it with 1 second left. And now Younghoe Koo to send the Falcons to overtime.
Or not. I mean, he already missed a field goal.
True. Man, if that kick was not blocked, would be talking about a game-winning field goal right here. But then the Falcons to send the game to overtime. And what's been this has to be as good of a Thursday night football game as you'll ever see. And we got a delay of game on the Falcons. They did not get out fast enough. Is there a delay? Is there a... okay, I don't think there's a 10-second runoff. So they were not... what in the world? So they didn't let him... they didn't let him snap the football at all, and the clock just ran out. So... anyway, 52 yards. What in the... okay, so the Bucs are calling a timeout to ice the kicker. Okay, 1 second. Some gamemanship there by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It cost the Falcons 5 yards because they couldn't do anything. They didn't have any timeouts. But yeah. Anyway, let's start looking into some upset alerts for this week while we wait on the finish of this ball game. So, who do we think is on upset alert this week?
Definitely UNLV. Even though they are 4-0 and playing at home, the whole situation off the field with their quarterback, give me Syracuse.
I could totally see that happening. In fact, I agree with you. I think Syracuse is going to win that football game. A team that I guess would be an unconventional underdog here. We got undefeated Pittsburgh at North Carolina. North Carolina's looked awful recently, but give me UNC. I feel like UNC is going to get themselves off the back here and find a way to get it done. Also, I'm not going to pick them to win, but don't be surprised if Iowa and Ohio State is closer than the experts think, as the field goal by Younghoe Koo is good. So we're going to overtime in Atlanta, free football, late on a Thursday night. It's going to be a late night on the MARTA trains in downtown Atlanta. Now, in terms of underrated games, one game I want to shout out, I want to tie it back to what we talked about a little bit at the beginning. Appalachian State, a team that's been extremely affected by the hurricane. Boone, North Carolina was devastated by the floods. Their school was flooded. They're going to be playing this week on the road at Marshall. So just very interesting to see what Appalachian State looks like. They had a game last week canceled against Liberty. So I'm just curious to see what Appalachian State looks like coming off of a tragedy like that.
Well, not only Appalachian State, a lot of schools in the FCS are going to have to deal with that situation.
Yeah, UTC goes up to ETSU this week. If you want to understand, UTC is having to send a lot of their video crew members who produce home games here to produce the game at ETSU because a lot of those folks have lost everything. So that's kind of the situation there. Although they're going to play, I think Western Carolina, they're playing at home this week against, I think it's Furman, but they're not going to play in front of any spectators. So definitely keep the folks of Western Carolina, App State, and ETSU especially in your thoughts. But definitely Wofford and Furman and the upstate South Carolina have been also heavily affected by this as well. Also, in terms of underrated matchups, I didn't put this in the top 5, but maybe I should have. UCF at Florida. Because this feels like this is do or die for Billy Napier.
Yeah, definitely this is an underrated match. I think UCF coming off a loss against Colorado and Florida, having to show at least some sort of progress this season. So I think it's going to be an interesting matchup.
Oh, yeah. Also, if you want a good bet, the over 64.5 in Texas Tech at Arizona. This game is going to be 11 p.m. on Fox. It's going to be Big 12 after dark. It's going to be a shootout. Should be a lot of points scored there. All right. So, and I guess that was my best bet. All right, let's pick some of these games. I'm going to add UCF and Florida to this because why not? Because I just think this game is super important for Florida. Can Florida hold off the Golden Knights?
Yes. Give me the Gators.
I'm going to agree. I like Florida to win here too. I think we will see Billy Napier come to Knoxville next week. We have SMU at Louisville. I think this game is huge for the ACC.
Give me the Mustangs.
I'm going to go Louisville at home. It's a noon game. I do think Louisville's pretty good. I think they're going to find a way to get it done. All right. We got Ole Miss coming off the upset, traveling to South Carolina off a bye. Gamecocks feel like they should be undefeated and felt like they got robbed a few weeks ago against LSU. Who do we have here?
Give me Sean Beamer. Give me the Gamecocks.
Part of me wants to take Carolina here, but I just think Ole Miss is going to find a way to get this one done. I think it's going to be this might be the game of the day right here. I think Ole Miss is going to find a way though, to get it out of there with a win. We've already both picked Syracuse over UNLV. We have a national championship rematch, although there's basically feels like there's none of the same players or coaches. Michigan at Washington.
Yeah, that's so funny. It's a college football championship rematch, but it feels wrong because Washington was a Pac-12 team then. Both starting quarterbacks from last season left. Both coaches left. It feels an empty rematch, but give me the Wolverines.
Yeah, I agree. Give me Michigan as well. Washington's a disaster. All right, the game of the week, the only ranked unranked matchup. Missouri going on the road to Texas A&M. What do we think here?
Give me the Aggies. I think this is the kind of game that, for a new head coach, it's really important to win. Give me the Aggies.
Everyone's picking the Aggies, I feel like. And yes, Missouri has not looked good. Missouri barely beat Vandy the last time they were out. They kind of had a scrape by Boston College. They haven't been impressive. But I feel like they're getting disrespected a bit. I'm going with Missouri. I might be on a limb here.
Even the spread is for the Aggies, -2.5 for the Texas A&M.
Yeah. I have a feeling here. I don't think A&M's that good. That's just my personal feeling. I think Missouri finds a way. All right. So I'm shocked we've gone 90 minutes and have not mentioned the Vols.
But yeah, me too.
We have finally mentioned the Vols because the Vols had a bye week, so there really was nothing to talk about with the Vols. But we're back in action this week. We're going to face the Piggies, the Razorbacks of Arkansas. We're 13.5 point favorites at last check. We have not won in Fayetteville since 1999. We've not been in Arkansas since 2007. So it's been a long time since we've been in Arkansas because we don't play them every year. We don't play them very often. But a team that has given Tennessee trouble in the past, infamously, 1998, Arkansas jumped out to a 21-0 lead. And, of course, we had a miracle fumble by Clint Stoner. The Stoner stumbled to win that game and help us get to a national championship. So, what are the keys to the games here for Tennessee? Because this feels like this could be a tricky spot on the schedule. I've been saying all offseason, oh, man, the Falcons. Is that the game? I think it is the game in yeah, that is the game in overtime. What a play. Kirk Cousins to Russell Gage. And Baker Mayfield does not see the ball in overtime. And the Falcons have won in overtime.
What a win. And Kirk Cousins 2-0 in primetime? Wow.
They're 2-1.
I mean, in primetime, what was the other one?
The Chiefs.
Oh yeah, that's true. But 2-1 in primetime, though winning in overtime and now leading the division.
Yeah, huge result. That will have ramifications throughout the season. That had to be the best Thursday night football game.
And now he's being carried by his teammates.
Yeah, People say that NFL players have no passion. That's full of baloney. Let's look at this.
Yeah.
I know they get paid, but like competition is competition.
And respect for both quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins, but also Baker Mayfield. Put up a really great performance tonight.
Absolutely. Um,
But back in the Vols, I mean, definitely this game feels like that 1998 game, Razorbacks coming off, so far, goodish season, 3-2. They uh, lost to Texas A&M in a heartbreaking game, so they want to bounce back.
Yeah, and I think the tricky thing about Arkansas is I think they have a pretty good quarterback in Taven Green. They have a really good running back in Jaquindon Johnson. The rest of their team to me is not that good. I think that offensive line is very suspect, and the receiving core is just average at best. I think their defense is very mistake prone, and I think the team is kind of undisciplined. I think the coaching isn't the best. Now, Bobby Petrino's OC is doing a lot of good work with that offense. However, he's not the head coach, and of course, there's that weird dynamic between him and the head coach of Sam Pittman. It's always been weird because the Arkansas fans really want Bobby Petrino back as head coach. They desperately want Bobby Petrino back, even though it ended with him crashing on a motorcycle last time. They don't care. Bobby Petrino won a lot of football games as head coach. And they think the offense is really fun, and the offense is fun for Arkansas. But they haven't played a defense yet like Tennessee. And Texas A&M really held them in check. I mean, their quarterback only had 6 yards rushing against Texas A&M. If we are able to do that, Arkansas isn't going to be doing a lot on our defense. And then it just comes down to our offense not making a lot of mistakes. Nico continuing to grow. We should have Lance Hurd and John Campbell Jr. back, so we should have a full offensive line again. So I think we should be able to run the ball very effectively. Nico should be able to take his shots. Defense, I think, will dominate the day up front. The only thing you can't let happen is Javonte Green or Taven Green, the quarterback for Arkansas, to break loose and make plays with his legs. That's the thing that could kill you. That's the thing I am concerned about in this game. Also, it's a night game. The Arkansas fans are going to show up with the woo, pig suey and all that. So they're going to show up. They're striping out the stadium. But if you look online, a lot of Arkansas fans don't think they're going to win this game. So if you're able to get up early, you're going to take the crowd out really quickly. Don't give Arkansas any reason to believe they can win this game.
Oh yeah, it's a kind of tricky game. Yeah, very tricky. And one thing has been kind of like the Achilles heel for Josh Heupel is those kind of big games on the road.
Right. Well, we got a big one 2 weeks ago. If you can get through this one, then the only road games you have left are at Georgia, which are going to be an underdog anyway, and then at Vandy, which really isn't a road game. So you are set up very nicely if you win this football game.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm going to be honest. I really do feel good about this one. I think we will cover. I just think we are better across the board, and I trust this team to go on the road and take care of business, especially coming off a bye week. I think off the bye week will help out very nicely. I think Arkansas is kind of in a tilt place right now. I think, especially losing to our rival last week, I don't think they're fully confident within themselves. I don't think the fan base is confident in Sam Pittman. And I think they're going to come out and be really aggressive, kind of play desperate, which can be dangerous. But I think that's going to lead to some mistakes that Tennessee, as long as they just need to be patient in this game and take the opportunities as they come. And I think they'll find a way to get a big one.
I agree. I think the key thing for this game is patience. If Tennessee can really give trouble, especially in the offensive side, and put the fans against, their coach, because Sam Pittman is really on a hot seat, I think, definitely Tennessee can get the W.
Yeah, it reminds me of that. You remember Georgia Tennessee in 2017 in Neyland, the 41-0.
Yeah.
Like, remember how the fans quickly turned against the team when things went south?
Yeah.
This is what could happen here for Arkansas. So we need to make that happen on our end. don't give them any hope. Don't give them any reason to hope. Um, yeah, so that's where I'm at with the Tennessee Arkansas game. Obviously, get through this one, and there's much bigger games ahead, including a certain team from the swamp next week. And I don't really want to get ahead of myself, but the initial line came out in Florida, Tennessee, and it shows the Vols as a 20-point lead, but I'm not ready to entertain, or 20-point favorite, but I'm not ready to really entertain that. Also, there's some people complaining about Tennessee playing only night games. Sorry, but that's what happens when you're good. You play night games.
Yeah, I bet there's not one Tennessee fan's like, darn it, I want to play at noon. No, no,
no, you don't. Like, man, Neyland Stadium next week though at 7 p.m. for Florida is going to be absolutely unreal.
but I don't like when you have a checker kneeling at night. That's the only thing
I thought it was gorgeous for Ole Miss in 2021, at least until people started throwing stuff. But it really pops at night, in my opinion. But we'll see what happens. Obviously, gotta play and beat Arkansas first. All right. Some other brief sports, real quick. WNBA playoffs. They're in the semifinals, and of course, the team that everyone's been paying attention to, the Indiana Fever, were knocked out last week. So we're down to the Minnesota Lynx and Connecticut Sun on one side. It's a 1-1 series. And New York Liberty up 2-0 on the Las Vegas Aces. It seems to be the Liberty are just by far the best team in the league. But Minnesota is also really good. So I think it's going to be the Liberty and Minnesota going at each other. But the Liberty with Sabrina Ionesco and I think they had Brianna Stewart, if I'm not mistaken. That team is just too good right now.
Can finally New York win something in basketball?
Yeah, it looks like it's going to have to be from the Liberty side because hey, I mean they got two of the best players in Ionesco and Stewart, but I mean the Aces still have Aja Wilson, who's the MVP this year. So Aja Wilson maybe could get them back. Of course, Becky Hammond as well. Also really, really good head coach. But shout out to Caitlin Clark, unanimous rookie MVP, which a lot of people are trying to argue that she didn't deserve. But she clearly did. She was by far the best rookie player. And not just in terms of impact, but actually on the court. Like she, by the end of the year, was a top 10, 15 player in the WNBA. And is only going to get better. So, and obviously, she's much needed vacation for her now as well.
Oh, a very deserving vacation.
Absolutely. She's been going straight for like 12 months. Really quick, NASCAR. Some interesting news here. Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin are suing NASCAR. Basically, they are alleging that the France family who owns the sport is running it as a monopoly and are not giving the owners the fair share of the pie. So, Michael Jordan coming in to the sport of NASCAR just a few years ago, he's threatening to up in NASCAR. This is a wild move. And Michael Jordan is one of the few people in the world that can actually outspin the France family in a lawsuit.
Yeah, hopefully the sport doesn't get detrimental because of a lawsuit, because we saw leagues that folded because of that.
Yeah, IndyCar, I think, is one where you saw them split up for years because of lawsuits and disagreements. So the owners, I hope, figure some stuff out so we can, get back to focusing on making the racing better, which the racing lately has not been fantastic. And it doesn't help its football season. And a lot, attention gets diverted everywhere else. So NASCAR this time of year really needs big viral moments. And right now they're just not getting them. Ross Chastain won at Kansas, and it was an okay race. But he's not in the playoffs. They do get Talladega this week. So a chance for some viral moments there for sure. Because Talladega is always entertaining. And you can't really pick a winner because it's Talladega. It's always a wild card race. But that is all the time I have for American sports. What's going on in Brazil?
Yeah, in Brazil, there's a lot of controversy off the field. And let me start with that because the Brazilian Cup semifinals started this Wednesday. On the field, the home teams win. Atlético Mineiro 2-1 against Vasco. And the big matchup, the two most popular teams, Corinthians and Flamengo. Flamengo won 1-0. And let me start again, Nick. Guess what happens again at Flamengo? Just guess. Just guess. From all the time
All
you've been
right,
this.
a fight.
No, what happens recurrently? What do I always talk about with Flamengo?
The fans protest.
No, coach. Involves the coach.
Did they fire another coach?
Fire another head coach. Adenurbaki, known as Tite, he coached the Brazilian national team, coached Corinthians to win it all back in the early 2000s. And the way it was just so petty. Me, he should have been fired after the elimination against Peñarol in the quarterfinals of Libertadores. They kept him for the matchup against Atlético Paranaense for the Brazilian Championship at home, just so the fans can boo him, talk bad at him, give all the anger. So, what are your thoughts? Like, imagine you are a head coach and you lose the big matchup and then you have to play a home game to end the season and then you know the fans are going to boo him, like talk trash at him. Like, do you what do you think about that, Nick? Because that seems very petty. And shout out to Gabriel Guimarães. Thanks for watching. But this, I think, it's so petty. To a coach, you know, go out, coach a team, and the front office knew he was gonna get fired, but let him coach at home anyway, so the fans scream at him.
Yeah, that just seems like you're just creating a toxic environment for your players. And I mean, how is a team supposed to perform well and win in that environment if you are knowingly bringing your team into that situation? That's kind of what Florida's doing this with the UCF. Like, I feel like a little bit like they're bringing their team into a knowingly hostile situation that could go really south if the team starts losing. Um,
Yeah,
and but that's the reason why they keep on hiring and firing coaches. Like, an unstable organization will never settle on the right guy if they're just going to fire them every single month.
I trying to pick how much Flamengo. So how much Flamengo has spent on buyouts for firing coaches? So they spend it. Uh, I want to put in dollars, but in reais is 50 million reais. So
Yeah,
it's
and yeah,
almost
it's like what, a fifth of U.S.
so it's
dollars.
almost $10 million. It's almost $10 million.
That's ridiculous. I mean, that's
Yeah,
just, yeah, like,
nine point one
it's just a
million.
poorly ran organization.
Yeah, yeah, and guess what? They brought up an interim coach who was a former player. He was the coaching the under 17, under 20 Flamengo teams, and the team played well. The team played well, and you have a wonder, were the players kind of not playing their best and sabotaging because to sabotage the coach. I want to believe that, but the way they play on Wednesday, play with so much passion and intensity. And it was funny that Gabriel Barbosa, Gabigol, one of the biggest Flamengo stars in the recent years, who was time after time again benched, even not even put in the game for with Tite. He was the starter on Wednesday, and I mean, Flamengo is just a mess. And I know they're the richest team in Brazil. Their net, their their net worth is out more than a billion. They brought up almost a billion and a half million, 1.2 billion reais in revenue. But you know, if you can, and it's such a toxic environment because it's so funny. A lot of pundits and YouTubers that follow Brazilian soccer says that Flamengo right now is kind of the environment that you hate in sports because they're so rich. It's either win or failure, and even if you win, it's like, oh, you didn't do more than your obligation. So it's kind of you take the pleasure out of sport with that kind of environment.
Right, because like that's the thing that like at UT, for example, we for a while the football environment was not good. It was not fun. People didn't like each other. There was not a buy-in. Right now, it's a lot
Yeah.
different. People are bought in to the culture, and it sounds like Flamingo needs a new culture completely.
Yeah, they're gonna have a they're gonna have a presidential election coming up the end of the season. Rodolfo Landim really in trouble to get reelected, especially because the things on the field are not working. They're out of Libertadores. They are only in fourth place in the Brazilian Championship. So Brazilian Cup is the only thing they have right now. And there was a controversial decision by the Brazilian Confederation. So the second leg matchups were originally scheduled for 2 weeks in 2 weeks for midweek in around October 16th. But the problem was that the Brazilian national team and other national teams were supposed to play the day before for the World Cup qualifications. So Flamengo, in a behind the scenes move, convinced the Brazilian Confederation to change dates so they can play this big matchup, the second leg of the Brazilian Cup semifinals, on the weekend on October 20th instead of October 16th. And Corinthians fans and front office and president were mad at it. Were mad at it. Says that Brazilian Confederation favored Flamengo because Flamengo had more players, called up for the FIFA break and to play for the World Cup qualification national teams, and if that happened on the other side, they wouldn't change the dates. And the other Flamingo YouTubers and commentators who said that Corinthians had this kind of treatment in the past, but is a lot of controversy off the field because of this move.
Right, for Corinthians, I mean, considering that they're still in the relegation zone, like I think for them this also is a lot. This also means a
Yeah.
lot, and um, it just seems weird that they would schedule that in the first place. Because like, didn't when they already know that there's a FIFA break right there? Like, why
Oh
are you
yeah.
scheduling this? Like,
Oh
what
yeah.
is the Brazilian Confederation doing?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are asking. Like a YouTuber that I really like, Kika Perrone, he said that Brazilian Confederation seemed they are running by little kids who are like, oh, we have a FIFA break. Oh, okay. Like they are completely clueless. Their president, Edinaldo, is only the president right now because of a decree by a judge because he was thrown out and then reinstated. It's a complete mess by the Brazilian Federation.
Yeah, I
And
mean, it's like the NFL scheduling a game on like I don't know election night.
no, it's like if, for example, you have a playoff matchup in the NFL, but then uh, the American football team has to play a game, and then the American football coach calls the majority of the players of the Kansas City Chiefs, and then the NFL changed the dates from like Sunday to Wednesday because of that. Yeah,
Wow, that
Sunday.
is such a wild scenario. I feel like there should be a rule in place before that happens to prevent that. But
Yeah,
that seems like that's too easy.
yeah. Unfortunately, kind of a little stain in this matchup because on the field, I think it's going to be a great matchup. Corinthians put up a fight yesterday. I think 1-0 was fair. Flamengo played better, but Corinthians lost many big opportunities. And the environment in Maracanã was disappointing. Only 42,000 fans in a 70,000 fan capacity. And in Itaquera, Corinthian fans are going to show up. It's going to be a full crowd. It's going to be an intense environment. And if there's one thing that Corinthians is a master of, is coming back from losing the first leg on the road to win at home. That's one thing Corinthians is really great at. So I
But I do
expect
have to ask though, how much energy should they put into this given that they're in relegation?
that that's what Corinthians fans are kind of mixed up because Corinthians fans are kind of divided. They're like, we should go all in the Cubs because we want to be because again, Corinthians have not won a single tournament since 2019. it's almost a 5-year drought. So there's a pressure as well for Corinthians to win something because Palmeiras won everything. São Paulo won the Brazilian Cup finally. Even, I mean, I guess Santos kind of, also is kind of in this limbo, and they're in the second division. But their two biggest rivals are winning trophies, especially, their biggest arch rival, Palmeiras, is, winning Brazilian Championship, Libertadores, Brazilian, uh, uh, Cup, and, state championships. And Corinthians has not won anything, not even a state title since 2019. So, eh, you know, there's this division. I mean, the big sense is Corinthians have to win this weekend against Internacional. I'll be there broadcasting because Corinthians right now are 2 points behind the first team out of the relegation, which is Fluminense, who just won against Cruzeiro 1-0 at home. So if Corinthians win, they're out of the relegation zone. But they're going to face an Internacional who won their last 5 games, who are in a completely uh, remodel of of their season under Roger Machado. If they win, they might get in the top four. So it's going to be a really tough matchup for Corinthians this weekend, and they cannot even think about losing this matchup or even tying.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to sit down to Serie B, most likely.
Yeah. Yes.
I was looking it up and saw Santos is in the promotion zone right now. So
Yeah, I think Santos are going to be in Serie A in the first division next year. I don't see. But I mean, Santos. I don't think they're going to win the title. And and there's a lot of Santos fans who say, nor should we, because for Santos' legacy, having a second division title is not good. So it's like, okay, we came back, we're back in the first division, but we're not second division champions. Because Santos has such a big legacy that it's not an impactful title. Like, for example, for Novo Horizontino, that's going to be huge. I mean, again, I told the story. It's a city of. Let me confirm, but again, it's a city of only 60,000 people. So it's a really, really small town. Is the first place, 41,000 to be more precise. 41,000 uh, uh, 414 is their population. So imagine a city so small going to the first division nationally. It's historical.
oh yeah, it's going to be huge. I can't wait to see what the crowds look like for that.
Yeah, I mean their stadium is decent amount, but I mean they're in a lot of excitement. And just to finish up the Brazilian Championship Week 29, so Palmeiras only 1 point behind Botafogo. They won. I was there against Atlético Mineiro. They played well. I mean Dudu coming from the bench, he suffered the penalty that Rafael Veiga scored. I mean, again, the same thing I've been talking. When Palmeiras only has to play one tournament and they're rested, they are unstoppable. I mean, Botafogo. I mean, I don't. Botafogo's gonna have to choose Libertadores or Brasileirão. I don't see them winning both, especially the way Palmeiras has been playing.
Which one would you choose?
It's so tough. I mean, Libertadores will be bigger, and they're only 3 games away from the glory, you know. But Brazilian Championship, but Botafogo never won Libertadores, and they have won the Brazilian Championship. So I guess Libertadores will be bigger. So I guess I would choose Libertadores. But Palmeiras going for back to back to back championships, and it's a really big possibility for that to happen.
Absolutely. Well, it's going to be very fun to see what happens at the end
Yeah,
of the Brazilian
and,
Championship.
and also I want to say, oh, by the way, all the games are gonna happen on Saturday because Sunday it's election day here in Brazil. It's the municipal elections, so um around 5,000. Let me
I'll say because like Lula's term is not up yet.
No, 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 no. So 5,570 cities in Brazil are gonna choose their next mayor and all their city councils. So it's only city election. There's no Congress, no state Congress, no governor, no president. It's only mayor and city council elections this Sunday, and I'll be
Elect
covering.
some people who will get you back some Twitter.
I don't see that happening. I mean, Alexandre de Moraes and Elon Musk are working on a deal, I guess, but you still have to pay the fines. But yeah, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'll be covering the Americana elections. Chico Sardelli, the current mayor, has the lead in the polls. This last poll will show him up 20 points against the second place Maria Giovanna Fortunato. So I think it's gonna be a second term for Chico Sardelli here in my beloved city of Americana, and I'll be covering all of that on Sunday. So I'm excited to cover my first election, city election here in Brazil.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Of course, I'm kind of dreading our election coverage because I don't know what's going to happen afterwards because people are quite volatile about elections these days in the United States. But I trust the process, have faith in the process, and whoever wins, hopefully, we will accept as a country and or actually move on. But it's easier said than done. But I guess that's all I've got to say. So for Gustavo Tomazeli down in Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, I'm Nick Hill from Chattanooga, Tennessee, United States, and you've been watching episode 149 of Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. Have a fantastic night, and God bless all of the victims across the South.